Recording live from the Lucky Number 7 Lounge, this is Dine Drink Vegas, the podcast by and for everybody stuck at home, wishing they were in the land of neon lights and bad decisions. But we won't be stuck home very much longer because this is episode 51, our preview of our upcoming Labor Day weekend guys trip. I'm your host, John, also known as the Baller on a Budget, and in this episode, we're going to tell you about the trip we're going to be doing on Labor Day, talk to you about our drink of the day, and break in some Vegas news stories. Well, not really breaking them because we probably stole them from Scott or somebody else who knows more than we do. But before we can get to any of that fantastic content, of course, we have to welcome in the founder of Dine Drink Travel and Dine Drink Vegas. Yes, I mean the high roller formerly of the High Plains, the leader in the luxury lounge, the king of comps, the Alabama slammer, Bill. Good evening, Bill. How are you, sir?
I am only drinking beer, and usually this podcast calls for whiskey, John, and that makes me sad.
Really? How can you be sad when you hear this sound? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, that is a beautiful sound, but the other beautiful sound is me dropping a rock into a proper rocks glass and then just some whiskey, and then I quit adding shit. Like, I don't add 6 or 7 more ingredients to make it a cocktail. I just put the whiskey in a glass, and that makes it good.
I understand that, but I have some recipes where you add things to beer, and we're not doing any of those tonight, so you're welcome. So listeners, as you might have surmised, Labor Day weekend coming up for us, that's a big college football weekend. It's the first official full weekend of college football. When we make this trip, we tend to revolve around a lot of sports betting and sports watching, so we thought this would be the time to talk about our preferred beers for football season, and also we're going to be having a pool day, the kind of thing we might drink around the pool. So, Bill, what are you drinking tonight, and what are your beer preferences for football season?
So you want something lighter, particularly for this trip, because you've got a full day of football to go through, and those dark, heavy beers, at least for me, are eventually going to quit sitting well. But you also want it to be an actual beer. You don't want something like, God rest his soul, my brother-in-law Mark used to drink Coors Light. No thanks, right? Like, that's just not the thing you want. So right now I'm drinking a Modelo Especial. The beer selection here in Alabama is not phenomenal, but I do drink that. Every once in a while I'll have a cider instead, but I tend to drink something like that or any of the other Mexican beers with a similar profile, like something like a Pacifico Clara or an Estrella or something like that. There aren't a whole lot of European beers that I want to drink, although a Stella Artois, occasionally a Harp lager will do. And that's not because I don't enjoy the European beers. That's because if you're going to sit and drink them for 3 football games, right, something lighter and crisper is going to be better, particularly if it's still technically August, either in Las Vegas or in Alabama. The heavy beers don't work. If you are here in Alabama for an event like that, the Cahaba Blond is pretty good. It is a local beer. But, John, there's one really important beer thing you need to know about me in college football. Can I share that beer thing?
Yeah. So,
as a fan of Texas A&M, when my Aggies start losing, which is going to happen at some point this season.
Often.
Yeah, I mainline vodka because it's easier that way. Like, I figure beer will probably get me through the UTSA game this weekend. And then second, third, fourth game of the season, they're going to have a great win against a team they should have lost to, and that's going to give me hope. And then they're going to remember they are who they are, and my drink is going to shift. But if I talk about this much longer, I may need to shift from Modelo to vodka immediately. So let's talk about your team, John. What does a TCU fan drink?
Whatever we can get our hands on. Yeah, to be honest with you. But for me, for beer, so you and I, we have a different relationship with beer. So on the one hand, I used to homebrew. In fact, I was actually the president of the local homebrew club for a year. So I'm an incredible fan of all kinds of beers. I like all styles of beer, but I'm also a diabetic. So I have learned to like really light beers because most of the time, if I'm going to have a beer, it's going to have to be Miller Lite, Coors Light, Michelob Ultra, because I just can't. That malt sugar in beer messes with my blood sugar. So a full-bodied, full-flavored beer, a non-light beer, is a treat for me these days, right? So I've learned to embrace the lighter side, even though I prefer big, full-body beers that you generally don't drink. But my rule of thumb for football is the beer needs to be something I can have 2 to 4 of over the course of the game. And that varies by season. So you live in a hot place, I live in a hot place. We talk about an even hotter place in Las Vegas. For the beginning of football season through roughly mid-October, that really does mean a crisp, light-bodied beer. Could be a Mexican lager, happen to like those a lot. Could be an American lager. I'm not a Budweiser fan at all, but I like a good Coors Yellow Belly. I like Lone Star, the national beer of Texas. And this is where I'll bring in a bunch of lighter beers. Tonight, I'm rocking a Yuengling Flight, which is their version of Michelob Ultra. Actually, this is one of the better light beers I've ever had, and it's pretty easy to find these days. Used to be something you didn't come across. When the weather gets cooler, I like a beer with a little more flavor or color. An Oktoberfest, maybe a Sam Adams Boston Lager, and of course, being a Texan, a good old-fashioned Shiner Bock. That's also where I start looking at local craft beers and anything from Germany. And then when the weather gets really cold, I go to my one true beer love, and that's stout. If I want a sessionable stout, something I could pound 5 of during a game, it's going to be Guinness or something like that, because Guinness looks heavy. And people get stuck in the brain that because it looks heavy, it is heavy. Actually, Guinness is fewer calories and less dense than Coors or Budweiser. It's your brain messing with you. But then I also do like big, heavier stouts, like an Imperial Russian stout or something like that. But if you drink 5 or 6 of those, your day's over. You're going to be passed out on the couch, so don't recommend that.
So what you're saying is that Guinness isn't good enough for you because it's not heavy enough. So when I eventually get you to go join me on a pub crawl in Ireland visiting the boy, you'll be like, no, that's only Guinness.
No, I will be drinking all of the Guinness. Although possibly, I also am a big fan of Murphy's Irish Stout, which is pretty hard to get here in the States. Beamish isn't bad either. So I will drink whatever the preferred stout in the given pub is. But yeah, I will definitely drink my way through some stout. All right, Bill, should we move on to this weekend's trip a little bit?
I am already ready to move on to this weekend's trip, and I don't even get on the plane for like 36 hours.
Well, since you get on the plane the day before I do, why don't you walk the listeners quickly through your plan for Thursday night? Because this is the part of the trip I'm going to miss.
So, folks, we are staying at the W. Me and my buddy Mike got a 2-bedroom suite there because that's what we usually do. So the group's got a place to gather. Although this time it's actually just 2 different 1-bedroom suites that are going to connect. And on Thursday, I get there first. And one of my jobs is going to be to tell the lounge that we would ideally all like rooms on the same floor, because I'll just make it easier to come to the central bar. And then step 2, you have heard us talk about this 300 million times in 51 episodes of this podcast, but I'm going to go to the liquor store for room drinks. One of the best money-saving tips you can possibly get in Las Vegas, is to go to the liquor store, go get some drinks to keep in your room, and they'll just save you money. And oddly, you actually probably drink less that way because you're not buying your drinks on the casino floor. You don't actually wind up with 3 or 4. From there, I'll arrive a little bit before lunchtime, and I'm a fat kid, so I'm going to need to eat. I was hoping Libertine Social would be open for lunch. It is not. So my pro tip is that there is a shopping center right across South Las Vegas Boulevard. It's actually across the boulevard from the Mandalay, but whatever. You can get, from my hotel room, you can get 80% of the way there indoors and just cross the street. And that shopping center has a highly rated Indian restaurant and a highly rated Mexican restaurant. And I live in Alabama and I miss spicy. And honestly, I think that's what I probably do. Between those 2 restaurants is Liquor Outlet, which isn't a phenomenal liquor store, but it's better than anything you're going to buy in the W or in the Mandalay Bay's gift shop. There's also a gas station with a convenience store right there, so you can get things like your bottles of water, your room snacks, all of that. For me, the highlight meal of the trip is coming that night. We are going to eat dinner, me and Mike and Zero, you're going to eat dinner at Eiffel Tower. I paid extra so we could all have a good table on the window with a view of the Las Vegas Strip. Because if you've never been in there, folks, the view is gorgeous, and I don't want to miss it because I tried to save a few bucks there. I would rather be eating across the street at Le Cirque, but Le Cirque was going to cost me about $500. Eiffel Tower, even paying for the extra table or the extra view, is probably going to cost me about $150. So it's still an extraordinarily expensive meal, but I can just about get my head around it as, the single highlight meal of the trip. And then I assume eventually, John, and tell me if you think I'm wrong here, that me and Mike probably eventually lose our friend Zero at a craps table. Like, as far as you know, does he actually sleep on those tables, or does at some point he go away?
I have never been able to stay up later than him. Somewhere around his 12th or 18th fireball, I assume he's got to pack it in for the night. But yeah, Zero has a motor on him. And by a motor, I mean a liver the size of an elephant, because he's almost inhuman. But also he drinks Fireball, so he doesn't drink grown-up whiskey.
Yeah, and that's like 3 proof or something, so I'm not even sure that it counts. But yeah, no, that is our plan for Thursday. So John, before I talk about the part of Friday before you're there, thoughts about our Thursday plan?
It honestly sounds lovely. I have been sorely tempted to try to find an excuse to fly out there and catch up with y'all Thursday, but there's no way I would be able to make it by dinner. And, after working a full day, I'm not going to want to party all night on Thursday anyway, so I'm just not even going to try it.
Yeah, no, save your fire. So Friday morning, unfortunately, I'm going to need to log in and do work for an hour or two, and that makes me super sad. But it turns out I care about my job and I want to do good work, so I'm going to have to do that. Conveniently, there's a great desk work set up there in the W, which I know from when it was still the Delano. And in terms of what I eat, I was for a long time debating going to Re-Raw, whether I should go Friday or whether I should go Saturday when you're there, or whether I should go twice, because Re-Raw is just, it is the perfect Las Vegas spot for having to enjoy Vegas the night before. And if you're like, I would like some corned beef hash and eggs and a cup of coffee and a glass of whiskey, there is zero judgment about any of that, and then you feel fine again.
Yeah.
We may, because Zero's going to want to keep playing craps, and frankly, I think I want to join him. So we might go downtown to gamble. We might go to TI to gamble. But I'm inclined, again, to wait till you get there before we make the downtown trip. So what I'm thinking we do late Friday morning is that we make this our buffet of the trip. Because while you enjoy that, I don't know that you enjoy it as much as the rest of us. The current thinking is we probably go to Palms to go to their buffet, because the Palms all-you-can-eat buffet is just phenomenal. Then, what time does your flight land Friday afternoon, John?
So it's scheduled to land at 12:30, which I'm not checking a bag. So I'm grabbing my backpack, walking off, and heading to rideshare. And the W's right there. I imagine I'm walking in probably right around 1. I have early check-in. So 1:15-ish, I should be checked in, dropping my bag off in the room. Now, I am more than happy to go gamble wherever, but unlike you three, I am going to be hungry. So I'm going to need, I don't need to sit down and grab a meal, but I'm going to need a bite to eat and an adult beverage, and then we can roll.
All right.
I thought about popping into Re-Raw, but that's going to take too long. I might hit up a slice shop and just grab me a slice of pizza, and we can rock and roll. So if we're going downtown, then I'll wait till I get downtown, because then I'm going to go get a slice at Evil Pie.
So hear me, friend. I know that we've got reservations at Border Grill for brunch on Sunday. However, just going in there, sitting at the bar and having a bowl of their pozole, I think would change your life. And it's not something that they've got on their brunch menu. Alternatively, if we think your flight's on time, we might just snack in the morning, wait for you before we go to a buffet. Because later on at night, we've got reservations at 7 o'clock Friday night at Atomic Golf, which I think will be a lot of fun. We're talking about going to the Peppermill after that for dinner, because we've been wanting to do that for years, but that meal's not going to happen until 9:30 or 10. So if we don't eat lunch until 2, that's not the worst thing in the world.
Okay, well, we can figure that out off air, but I like where your head's at.
Yeah, well, and
But yeah.
to be clear, your airline's got to get you there on time. Um, yeah. So, you know what? Game time decision. I will say one of the things I would like to do Friday is I love having a good cigar bar as part of my trip. And there's right across from the
Ooh.
Peppermill, the 8 Cigar Lounge there in Resorts World. And you've still never been in Resorts World, but 8 Cigar
No.
Lounge is just a beautiful spot. I don't know that I like it as much as, what is it, Davidoff down by Fashion Show Mall? But yeah, it's whatever. It is an amazing spot. You know, that may happen. And then I assume we hit the prayer revival meeting, maybe finish our salads, and all have deep philosophical conversation at that point at night.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a really good plan. I just don't want to overdo it because Saturday, although Saturday is going to be a good time to recuperate. Saturday morning, we're going to pop up and grab some breakfast. I'm thinking Rira,
100%.
probably about 8 in the morning because, probably about 7:45. The pool opens at 8. Our first college football games that we care about kick off at 9 Las Vegas time. I want to be in my cabana as close to kickoff as possible. I got myself a floaty because I'm not paying $50 for the Mandalay Bay floaty. I bought my own, bringing it with me. I plan to watch football and occasionally take a break to go float the lazy river and drink an adult beverage and then go back and watch football. And that pretty well will be most of my Saturday. And then I figure we need to get out around 4 so we can put on presentable clothes and hit up the Bourbon Steak happy hour at 5. And after that, the evening's free to gamble, watch sports ball, do whatever it is that we do. I don't think we have a big plan beyond happy hour.
So Mike went to LSU. He's going to want to see at least some of that game. Whether or not I'm interested in the A&M game honestly depends on which Texas A&M shows up, right? So this could be another spot where we might potentially. I guess the more I keep thinking about it, I want to go to Treasure Island for several hours at some point on this trip and gamble there because I'd rather be on the Strip. The rules are just better at Treasure Island. But fine, Saturday we can kind of make a game time decision. What are you planning for us on Sunday?
Well, hold on. Before we leave Saturday, I want to put a pin in this. You brought up going somewhere to gamble that night, and you brought up TI, and I don't object. But let's put a pin in that and circle back when we get to the news. Let's do that. I also will add this. Another possibility, at least to finish the LSU and A&M games before we go gamble, Flanker Sports Bar at Mandalay Bay is having a tiki pop-up. I think that might be a delightful if we catch the first half at happy hour at Bourbon Steak, make our way over to Flanker for some rum and the second half, and then launch ourselves out somewhere to go gamble and make smart financial decisions.
I think that is a phenomenal choice.
So Sunday, we're going to hit up brunch at the Border Grill. Now, listeners, Border Grill is a renowned Mexican food place in the Mandalay Bay. And they do a Sunday brunch where it's not a buffet. There's a menu. They've reduced it down. It's only about 9 different items, but you can order as many of them as you want. You can add on bottomless micheladas and Bloody Marys if you want, or mimosas. The food is just beautiful. I'm telling you that you really want to check out Border Grill. If you like Mexican and Mexican fusion food, worth checking out. And then really, we're probably going downtown. The people who aren't bald, I believe, have an appointment for a haircut. The baldies like me will probably be sitting on a stool over at Oak and Ivy.
We actually never made the haircut appointments.
Cost too much. Oh, okay. So Sunday's going to be easy and laid back, and we don't have really a firm plan yet. I will say that YouTuber Pennies to Vegas, who used to be Pennies for Vegas, but Twitter happened. He's my favorite Canadian. If you see his pictures online, he and I look like my father must have made a visit to Canada at some point and misbehaved. We are similar looking gentlemen. Let's just put it that way. I hope I can bump into Penny's. I've never met him face to face. Cool dude. I like his vlogs on YouTube. Yeah, hopefully I bump into him. But other than that, no real big plans for Sunday. We're just going to let Vegas take us. I guess at some point we got to pick a Sunday night dinner because we really haven't done that. Although if we do downtown Sunday, Pizza Rock would be a real good choice.
Yeah, so on the one hand, a couple of my favorite steakhouses, Oscars and Binion's, are downtown. But on the other hand, it's effectively the last meal of the trip. We're going to be full at that point. And pizza sounds right. And I kind of enjoy the notion of being able to just respond in the moment when we get hungry. So
yeah,
I think I'm in favor of that plan. Also, if we just tell Zero and Mike when to get in the Uber, they'll go and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we got a solid plan. And maybe also we head over to Rio and check out that food court. I don't know.
Maybe.
Ideas. We'll get there. Yeah.
Right. So, John, one of the reasons we always go on this particular occasion, there's a lot of reasons we go this weekend, but it's the first weekend of college football games. And inevitably, we wind up betting a little bit on college football. So, what sorts of college football bets are you thinking about making?
Well, there is a side bet I'd like to make. I think I'm going to take the over under on the Notre Dame Miami game. I could be wrong. I have a feeling that's going to be some points. And I may be wrong. And I'm going to say this. You watch way more college football than I do. So what I propose we do is we're going to let you, because you know what you're talking about, roll out your picks. And then I'm just going to say whether or not I agree with them. And listeners, look, I'm not saying you should bet what either of us have to say, but if you were going to trust one of us, I simply note Bill watches way more college football than I do.
So
if this was the NFL, I would tell you the other way around. Don't listen to Bill. But for college, I don't know that you listen to either of us, but probably Bill.
You should definitely not listen to either of us. This is what I intend to do. And these aren't going to be large bets because I can't afford to lose large amounts of money. But it does make it fun. So a couple of rules you've got to remember, folks, if you're not familiar with sports betting, particularly in Vegas. One, don't ever bet money on a team you're rooting for. Your bets aren't about supporting your team. Your bets are about winning money. I don't bet on my Aggies. It's just a terrible choice. Second, remember that the spread isn't a prediction about how the game is going to go. The spread is how many points the casino has to give to get an equal amount of money bet on both teams. So, for example, I think that my Aggies are going to defeat UTSA this weekend, but according to most of the sports books, they're dropping 24.5 points right now, which means that if Texas A&M wins the game by 24 points and I've bet on Texas A&M, I lose the bet. If they win by 25 points, I win the bet. But that's how much money the sports book had to give, the books have to give, to get equal amounts of money. Because what will happen is typically you have to bet $110 to win $100. So if the same amount of money is spent on both teams, then the house essentially takes 10% of the bets. So that's their incentive. So I've got, I think, probably about 4 bets I'm thinking of right now. One of those is on Friday night because I want to bet on at least one game a day. And I think my Sunday game I may have accidentally deleted here. But on Friday night...
No, oh, yeah, you did.
Yeah. So on Friday night, I've got Auburn minus 2.5 at Baylor. So Aranda at Baylor is a great defensive mind from his LSU days. But he didn't last year have an amazing defense against good teams. And in this context, because it's the Big 12... Baylor's in the Big 12. Auburn constitutes a good team. Auburn's defense last year wasn't terrible, and I think they have enough of an offensive spark to cover that spread. So, John, do you take Auburn minus 2.5 at Baylor or not?
Yeah, I don't think I bet more than $5 on this game. I don't have a lot of confidence in this. If there's one thing that a TCU fan has learned over the years, it's that Baylor ruins everything, including point spreads. So I don't have a lot of confidence, but I'm with you. I've taken Auburn in that one, but that one's,
Fair. So Saturday early, I'm taking Mississippi State minus 13.5 at Southern Miss. I just don't see Southern Miss keeping that one close. I mean, every fifth year, Southern Miss will spring up and have a good season, which means, of course, I might be wrong. I just don't see that being this year. So, John, do you take
Right.
the SEC team minus less than 2 touchdowns against Southern Miss?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, thinking Southern Miss is going to be good is like waiting on the locust to return. Like you never know. I noticed you did not want to touch Texas versus Ohio State in this time slot.
So, see Rule 1 about never bet on a team you're rooting for. I am always rooting against that large publicly funded institution in Austin who's done nothing to deserve being meriting being called by their name. So, no, I don't bet on them either because I can't make a rational choice. And I suspect that both them and Ohio State will have good teams. I don't have enough data to make it, and I'm emotionally involved.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
and I have a thought on that game. And again, I don't know that I bet this thought because I can't decide which way I think it's going to go. I think it comes down to whether or not you believe in Arch Manning because there's a lot of pressure on that kid. And I think one of two things happens. I don't think this is going to be as close as the spread says. I think either Manning is who everybody thinks he is, and he's going to come out there and he's going to ball out, and Ohio State's not going to be ready because he's on a campaign to prove he should be the number one pick in the draft. Or he's not that guy, and everything seems to be riding on him. So again, I'm not a college football expert. I think I would bet Texas, and I'm actually planning on throwing a fiver on this game. I'm not super confident in that, but I believe in the Manning name, although for every Peyton, there's an Eli. But that's where I'm at.
All right, fair. So I've got two more bets that I'm pretty sure I'm going to wind up making. And one of those is Tennessee minus 13.5 at Syracuse. It's the same basic story as the Mississippi State game, although I feel even more strongly about it. Tennessee last year was one of the better teams in the SEC. I don't think Syracuse is going to be capable of keeping this close. So what's your take on that game, John?
Well, give me just a second. I want to look something up really quick. Yeah, Stanford hung 79 on the Orangemen. Nope. Give me Tennessee.
All right. So the last game that I've got is a Saturday night game, Notre Dame at Miami. And I realize Miami is ranked 10th in the country. However, sorry, I was just getting a little bit of weird feedback for a second. So I realize that Miami is ranked number 10 in the country, but I think number 10 is an over ranking. Notre Dame's only dropping 2.5. I think Notre Dame will be as good as they were last year. I'm going to want to see some more proof before I believe that about Miami again. So I take Notre Dame minus 2.5, even though the game is being played at Miami.
Yeah, and I think
Thoughts?
that's the game that I probably take the over on also. I think I agree with you on that, and I think I'm going to take a wild card and take the over.
What is the over-under on that game?
I had it pulled up, and then I lost it. And Bill,
So
I'm going to let you take the first story because I'm having a headphone issue.
Okay, fair. I did have a couple of other over-unders, and folks, the last thing I will say while John is resolving his headphone issue is you don't just have to bet who's going to win. An over-under is a bet on the total number of points that are going to be scored in the game, and a lot of times if you've got a Pac-12 game, like I think Hawaii's playing Arizona, and the over-under is something like 49.5 points, there's no way that game results in only 7 touchdowns, so I would probably take the over on that game. So over-unders are another fairly simple bet that you can look at. But in terms of news items, the first one makes me sad, and it's from our friend Scott at Vital Vegas, who is reporting that Iron Chef Mike Simon's Mabel's Barbecue will be closing soon. Since that story broke, it looks like 2 more restaurants, including Much Loved Ventre Cucina, are closing. So the dining portfolio makeover seems to be in progress at Palms. And on the one hand, I'm sad because I always wanted to go to Mike Simon's barbecue place there. But on the other hand, I never actually did. So, John, what do you think the odds are that Mike Simon's restaurant got killed by being in a hotel that's a lovely hotel, but where they're getting approximately zero walk-by traffic.
So the thing is, I have read a lot of very mixed reviews of that particular restaurant. It's one that I wanted to check out. He's one of my favorite personalities on the Food Network. He's another bald brother who loves smoked meat, so I got a lot of respect for that. We're, mixed would be the polite term, and Scott of Idle Vegas certainly didn't seem to think much of it. But the fact that Scott Vetri's place, which is beloved, is also going out the door, I don't know that this is so much that they're located off the strip, as I have a feeling that those owners at the Palms, remember when they reopened after COVID, they did so with new ownership. I think they're looking to make some big changes, and I'm just waiting on the other shoe to drop.
Well, could be. Speaking of big changes, what's going on at Ellis Island? Oh, sorry.
I got you. I got you.
Yeah, very good. So, what's going on over at Ellis Island, John?
So Scott also posted pictures of the casino expansion at Ellis Island, which look similar. Look much classier and more modern than the truck stop game room vibe we joked about last episode.
Huh.
So, did you get a chance to
So,
look at those pictures, and did they change your perception at all?
I did get a chance to look at the pictures. I did like it. And I would go in if we were there. I don't see a specific reason to go there. Mostly just because what Ellis Island offers is friendlier gambling rules. But if I want friendly gambling rules somewhere near the strip, I'll just stay on the strip. I'll go up to TI, and TI's got more other nice stuff that I enjoy. It was also really, really good to me for years and years in terms of comps. So, John, do I assume correctly that you'll be going back to Ellis Island sometime soon?
Yes, I definitely want to check this out. I would really love to do that on this trip, but if you're committed to TI, I don't have that big a dog in the fight. I will say the gambling odds are better at Ellis Island,
All right.
and the table
Fair.
minimums are lower, which also matters because your bankroll goes a little bit further. But that's not a hill I'm willing to die on for this trip. I also wouldn't mind if we walked through the Rio either, so I'm open to whatever.
Cool. Well, in other news, Twitter user Chris Holmes, who is at 7Suited, shared some great photos of the progress the Hard Rock has made thus far in building their guitar tower. And this tower is going to be huge. And on the one hand, I'm excited to see it, and I very much intend to go in. On the other hand, man, I love the Mirage as it was. And I'm also just sad that there's nothing there for a couple of spots. So, John, once the Hard Rock eventually opens, where does that fit on your priority list of places to go?
Oh, I'm thinking that the view out of that guitar tower, the rooms face the strip either way. You're either looking south or looking north. I think those rooms are going to be worth checking out. I don't know that they're going to be at a price I can afford. It's going to be a massive tower. I think something like over 2,000 rooms added to the Mirage. The Mirage was already a beast of a property. I do want to check this out. I also love that part of the strip. One of the best things about the old Mirage is you could pop over to TI, you could pop down to Caesars, head over to Venetian and Palazzo so I could go get my Yardbird chicken and waffles. You're real close to the Wynn. If you like that end of the strip, it's a phenomenal location. I think it's going to breathe life back into TI that has been struggling without its sister property there. So I'm very excited about this. I definitely want to check it out. It'll be a question of pricing. I think that, the other Hard Rock in Florida has a reputation for being gambler friendly. If Hard Rock opens up with great gambling odds and reasonably priced rooms, I think they can spark a sea change on the strip. But if they look at the other strip properties and they price themselves and set the gaming odds accordingly, it's one more overpriced place with crappy gambling odds on the strip. So I'm really curious what the Seminoles are going to do. And they haven't said anything about their philosophy for the casino or their pricing structure. I'm optimistic that they're going to come in and price things right to drive business. And I think this could spark a competitive arms race.
All right. Well, speaking of, what else is going on near the Mirage?
So, Travels Orc and many others have shared that the Mirage is running an auction of some former Mirage items, including the fabulous mermaid statue that many people have lovingly caressed for luck in a certain location that's shinier than the rest of her. Starting with a $10,000 bid, and the auction begins on September 20th. Bill, what are the odds that Rachel lets you bring home that mermaid?
There is such a thing as a dumb question. I've heard people say there's no such thing as a dumb question, and those people haven't been married for 20 odd years. So, sweetheart, when you're listening to this, no, I will not be trying to buy a mermaid nor a $50,000 dolphin statue. My priority, of course, is to use all of that money to buy more cleaners so I can spend the time scrubbing every toilet at our home religiously, because I think that's the best use of our money. Now, John, I assume that Lori's actually encouraging you to go buy both the dolphin and the mermaid, right?
If I buy anything from this auction, I will be buried with it.
Huh. I am willing to help Lori with that. Speaking of things which may make you want to get buried, Proper Eats Food Hall has announced a $24 all the draft beer you can drink offer available this Labor Day weekend. And I did not know that till I read the show notes for today, but I may be changing my plan, John. I'm not a huge beer guy, but at Vegas prices, particularly if they've got some good options, I don't know that I wouldn't do that, particularly since it would let me sit in their food court. And I like whatever the pizza place is there.
Yeah.
That's not a terrible option. Do you know what sort of beers they have on offer?
As I recall, it's most of your big American beers, and they also have some local Las Vegas beers. It's a decent beer selection. Now, it's not BrewDog. You don't have a couple hundred beers on tap, but they got some things you'll drink, and I'm pretty sure they have Mexican lager. Which, let's be honest, all you really want is to see Tecate Modelo or something of that like, and they're going to have that for you.
That's all that matters. All right.
Well, Travelzor.
What else is going on?
Also, speaking of beer, he reports that there's going to be the first ever Oktober Fest in the Fremont East neighborhood, September 19th through the 21st, complete with an open air beer hall taking over East Fremont Street between Las Vegas Boulevard and 7th Street. Now, that basically means if you think about that area right there by Container Park and El Cortez, right around the corner from 7th and Carson, that's a really good location. $10 wristband to get you in the door, and then you pay for your food and drinks separately. So, Bill, I know we can't go this time around because we both have jobs that conflict. But for future trips, if this catches on, could you see yourself Oktoberfesting in downtown Vegas?
Yes and no. On the one hand, it would be a lot of fun. On the other hand, I lived in El Paso, Texas, when I went to grad school at UTEP. And at that point, the Luftwaffe's Air Training Command was still located in El Paso. And I went to an Oktoberfest hosted by the actual Germans. And it has been a quarter of a century since I've been willing to go back to an Oktoberfest. That was one of two, and it was in 1999, right? It's been a hot minute now. No, actually it wasn't. It was in 1998, right? Even further ago. But nonetheless, I'm not sure I am allowed to go back to an Oktoberfest. I think Germany may have banned me from Oktoberfest even here in this country. Although, and this is mostly what we're doing tonight, and I'm impressed with it, but in another story we didn't lift from Scott at Vital Vegas, which should at this point feel weird to both of us, the Las Vegas Review-Journal reported on August 21st that John Fisher has financing in place for the new A's stadium. Now, team president Mark Bedane acknowledged that costs are likely to rise an additional $250 million to about $2 billion, but said the financing is in place, which is great news. Interestingly, though, the article did not say what the financing actually is. So, John, before we talk about, and before we engage Scott from Vital Vegas in this debate, go ahead and share with us the next news item, which I think may help us contextualize this first news item.
In related news, Mark Akers at the Las Vegas Review-Journal reported August 26th that the A's will visit Las Vegas for select home games next year. There will be a total of 6 games against the Brewers from June 8th to 10th, against the Rockies from June 12th to 14th. The games will be played at the AAA Las Vegas ballpark, which I believe is in Henderson, but I might be wrong about that.
You know, John, between those two, I don't believe we have financing. We swear we do. We really, really do, without announcing what that financing is. Like, I would believe we had a loan from Citibank in the amount of $1 billion. That's a specific thing. That's not what they're announcing. So I don't believe that. But the fact that the A's are actually going to play 6 games in Las Vegas next year, even if it's in Henderson or wherever, I think you and I have been right for a couple of months now. Mark Fisher may or may not bring baseball to Las Vegas, but I am absolutely convinced that Major League Baseball brings brings baseball to Vegas in the form of the A's. There are just too many markers. Is that still your opinion here?
Yes, it is. Now, I'm going to go ahead and voice what Scott at Vital Vegas has already said about this. The All-Net Arena project that's trying to bring basketball team, NBA team to Vegas has said for years, we've got all the financing. And they don't, and they haven't built. And so Scott would rightly point out, we've heard this before with other venues that still didn't happen. I, however, have a conspiracy theory here. I had to kill my mic so I could get that beer burp out of the way so I could bring you this conspiracy theory. You and I have said that we think that this gets done because baseball will encourage or force John Fisher to either sell completely or sell a controlling interest in the team to somebody else. Here's my conspiracy theory. I think they can say that we have the financing because I suspect there are multiple parties willing to invest to take an ownership stake in the A's, but they're not going to announce who until it's settled, until it's clear how much of a stake, who's going to be the controlling partner in that new ownership group. And it is possible, because there's a number of billionaires in America who want to get into sports ownership, that there may be multiple suitors. So the A's can confidently say we have the money, but they just can't say which deal they want to take or which deal Major League Baseball is willing to sign off on. Because the two conditions to make this happen, the A's have to have a dance partner they like, but baseball has the other owners, the league has to sign off. And I think that they are doing the best they can to keep this quiet, but I think there are some investors that want to come in and make this happen. And I think they'll make an announcement as soon as they've decided who the dance partners are. That's my conspiracy theory. I don't know anything. I have no inside knowledge. I am not Scott who gets tips, but I'm an old man who's watched a lot of sports ball and seen a lot of backroom deals go down in various walks of life. I think the money's there. I think there's multiple sources for the money, and they just got to decide who their dance partner is.
Excellent. Well, with one more, and I do, by the way, agree with your statement, John. You are an old man. But in one more baseball story, and following up on a previous story, reminding you that Vegas is a real place where actual people actually live, the Summerlin South Little League team won the U.S. Championship before falling to Taiwan in the World Championship game. And it is, I mean, to me, Vegas is a fantasy escape destination. It's just so weird to think about Las Vegas as a place where people permanently are. John, you and I have talked about it before, but there are any number of scenarios where, either one of us could wind up there at some point. What do you think it would be like to actually live in Las Vegas?
I think it would be like living in any metropolitan area that has a big tourist component. You probably don't go to the tourist places very often. I doubt locals spend a lot of time on the Strip, probably only when family comes into town or it's a special occasion. Just like when you live in Dallas, you don't really want to go to Six Flags or Great Wolf Lodge or Hurricane Harbor or go see the Cowboys play mediocre football. You save that for the tourist. So I think in Las Vegas, it's a lot of sweating and a lot of sitting on the freeway and doing normal stuff. I think people who move to their favorite travel destination thinking every day is going to be a vacation are probably a little bit misguided. That doesn't mean it wouldn't be a good place to live. You just can't expect it to be like your vacation. Because like you said, real life happens there, including Little League and junior high and income taxes, stuff.
Ooh. Well, John, does that wrap us up for tonight?
I believe it does. So we thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this particular episode. Bill, before we check out, why don't you tell them where they can get more Dine Drink Vegas and Dine Drink Travel content?
So you can find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Vegas, where we bring you short and focused videos which help you plan your next trip. Things like, do I want to eat in this restaurant or stay in this hotel room? You can also find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Travel if you're interested in things like airplane flights or airport executive lounges, things like that, including the lounges at the Las Vegas airport. You can find us on most social media platforms at Dine Drink Travel. That includes X, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, although for reasons which are not entirely clear to me, I wound up being Dine Drink Bill on Blue Sky. John, where can they find you on social media platforms?
On Twitter X, I am at Dine Drink John. I don't know if we're going to release this late on Friday like we normally do, or if Bill can drop this a little bit early. If you happen to be in Vegas over Labor Day weekend and you think you might want to buy me a beer, or at least you want to know where I am so you can avoid me, and you slide into my DMs at Dine Drink John and send me a message. If I can accommodate time to meet with one of our 7 listeners, I would be more than happy to do so. If not, we thank you so much for listening. Please catch us again, maybe a little bit longer than a week. We'll see how recovery goes, and we'll start giving you some episodes where we break down what we loved and didn't love about our upcoming trip. If you've got a friend planning their next trip to Vegas and anything we've said today would help them do that, please share this podcast with them. And as always, thanks for listening. Happy travels.